contour milling on the Mill 55 from MCO. I've already imported from 2D Design a drawing here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to allow the cutter to cut around the outside of this in that shape. So what I've done is I've imported it as a DXF file. So this is now my drawing. The first thing I'm going to do, because I've just come to the machine, is I'm going to reference the machine. So I'm going to close the door, and it tells me down here that this is what I've got to do. So I'm going to click over here on that button to reference the machine. So this just puts the machine at a position that the software knows where it's going to start from. Okay, so we've referenced the machine. What we're going to do here is, just to remind you, we've got the drawing in CAD, the machine cycles in CAM, and the control the machine in NC, numerical control. So I'm going to go over to CAM now, and if it's not selected already, this button here where it says Enter Contour or Pattern, what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on that button and it allows me these options on the left. The second one down allows me to select in one go multiple parts that are all linked together. If I just wanted to select part of this contour, I would use the top button there. I'm going to select all of it, so I'm going to click on this. You can see that as I move the cursor over, it becomes orange. That tells me that all of this is selected. If it doesn't all select there, what you need to do is make sure that all of the parts are touching. So I'm going to click this, and on the right hand side you should see that contour 1 has appeared. So this is now called contour 1. So this, what we can do now, is we can go to cycles. Contour milling is what we're looking for, because we've just created this contour, so we're going to try and mill that contour. So click on there, and it brings up the contour milling screen. So where is the starting position is X in X and Y. So I've clicked in X, I'm going to insert point, and there's a little cross that's appeared here on K1. I'm just going to use that as my starting point. That seems like a good starting point. Click on that. And it's put the coordinates in for me. ZS is the safety value in Z, which as it traverses down really quickly, what that does is it slows it down for that last part. That's set to 1. I'm actually going to change that to 2, which is a bit more comfortable for me. Z0. So this is Z0, which is the surface. Anything above this is positive, anything below this is negative. So we're actually going to start cutting at Z0 on the surface. So we'll leave this at 0. The depth of this cut, let's leave this at 1/2 mil. So we'll cut 1/2 mil off. And we're going to do that in increments of 1/2 mil, so it's only going to do 1 cut. Now this is interesting. This little box here allows me to either move the cutter along and then down into position, or I can move it down and then along into position. So because we're machining into the top of the surface, I'm actually going to choose along then down, and then click on technology. This allows me to set up the tooling. At the moment I've got tool 1 set, and I actually want to use tool 2, which is the 6 mil cutter. So I'm going to click on here and choose tool 2, press enter. This is an offset value which you can leave as 1. Feed rate at 200 is fine, speed at 3200 is fine. You can put a finishing cut here, and I'm actually going to leave it this time, but if you wanted to, if you were roughing out first and cutting most of the material away, and then you wanted a nice slower finishing cut at the end, you can put the details in here for that. This delta value is the amount of material you want left on for that last cut. This is the feed rate in Z, which shouldn't be that, it should be 20, not 200. This value here is a toggle. You toggle this between 3 values. This value here actually means if I've got a line like this, the cutter, the centre of the cutter would follow the line. If I toggle it, what can happen is the cutter can either go to one side of the line or the other. So depending on your shape, it's either going to cut the inside of the shape, the outside of the shape, or the actual line of the shape. So what we'll do is we'll check we've got the right one by clicking capture, and if we wanted to cut the outside of the shape, what I should hopefully have shown you is that this should be wrong, so that I can show you that by checking it on the simulator, that I can go back and edit that. So if I'm going to stop, reset, and go, you can see there it's actually tried to cut the inside. So what I need to do is go back to cycles, and if you need to edit something, you need to go into, you've got on this side here, you can see on the right hand side, you've got the contour itself and then the contour milling. So I'm going to click in my contour, there we go, and click in technology, and this I'm going to change to the other side. So click that twice, click capture, and now you can see the cutter running around the outside. So let's just have a look at what that looks like on the simulator. Bottom, middle, top. And there you can see, if I just move that about, we've got the contour we're looking for. Now we just set the workpiece data, as before. So we click in here, check we've got the right tool in, we've got the wrong one in here. So click this, press tool 2, hit enter, and nothing will move now. If I try and move this, you'll see it won't actually move. If I go up and down, nothing's moving. I've actually got to hit this reset button over here just to tell it that the tool has been changed. So if I click in here, now it should let me move the machine. So what I need to do is I need to take out the tool that's in there. I'm going to position the spike so that I can accurately find the centre of the cutter. I'm going to position the spike onto this corner here, which I know from the drawing to be 0, 0. I'll just show you that really quickly. So down here, you can see as I move the cursor about in the bottom left of the screen where the cursor is now, if I position over that corner, looking down on the job, it is in fact 0, 0. So that's the point I've got to put the cursor at and then tell the machine that's where you are. I'll click in here. I'm going to use the keyboard here. So I'm going to go, I've got my left and right, backwards and forwards, up and down. So think about the cutter moving rather than the bed moving. So I want to move the cutter slightly to the left, slightly towards me, which is going to be 1, and then go down, which is number 2. Now I'm at 120% here. I've got to reduce that in order to stay safe and not impact on the top of my work. So I'm going to drop that to 5. Actually, I'm going to make that a bit quicker, 20. And as I get closer, I'll just slow that down. Move that left a little bit. So now I'm going to say in X, which is this way, I'm at 0. In Y, which is this way, I'm at 0. And Z, which is up and down, I can't put in yet because I haven't got the right tool in. So I'm going to lift this up, put in this 6mm cutter. So now I've got the 6mm in, I need to find the surface, the Z0. So bring the cutter down. If the top of your work isn't flat, I would recommend you finding the highest point, certainly if you're going to mill that point, and use that as your Z0. So I'm going to find this, get as close as I can by eye, reducing the feed rate, and then I'm going to take a piece of paper, just put that under there, reduce the feed rate down to 1%, and just dab the number 2 key, which is the down key, and keep the paper moving. This allows me to find the surface, and that's just grit there. How nice to sign the thickness of the piece of paper away. I can now set my Z value to 0. And that's everything done. I'm just going to move the cutter up before I start the program. This allows me to slow down or even stop the machine if I've made an error in the programming. So I'm going to set the feed rate back to 0 before I close the door. So we're closed. So I'm going to hit, this is go, this is stop, this is pause. If I hit pause, the machine will keep spinning but the feed rate will stop. And to start it again, I need to hit enter twice. And I can manually control, this is called the manual override, the feed rate here. So if I'm going to hit go now, and I'm going to slowly increase the feed rate. So I'm looking at the Z value, just checking that is the distance from the top of the work the bottom of the cutter, which looks about right. The 2mm safety that we put in, so I'm waiting for that to kick in, there it is. And now it's going to position itself to the starting point. Okay, increase the feed rate a little bit there.